The knock came at exactly midnight. Not a second before. Not a second after. Ethan Cole froze mid-step in his dimly lit apartment, his fingers still hovering over the switch of a flickering lamp. Outside, the city had long gone quiet. Only the distant hum of passing drones and the occasional whisper of wind between skyscrapers filled the silence. No one visited at this hour. No one could. The knock came again. 3 soft taps. Careful. Urgent. Ethan's chest tightened. His instincts told him to ignore it. In a city like New Avalon, midnight knocks never brought good news. But something about the sound, fragile, almost pleading, made it impossible to walk away. He moved slowly toward the door, his footsteps echoing too loudly in the small room. His hand hovered over the lock for a moment before he finally twisted it open. The door slid aside with a quiet hiss, and she collapsed into him. She was ice cold. Ethan barely caught her before she hit the floor, her body light but trembling. Long strands of silver hair spilled over his arm, glowing faintly under the artificial light. Her skin shimmered, not like sweat, but like something deeper, something almost luminous. Hey, he whispered, panicked, dragging her inside and shutting the door behind them. Stay with me. Her eyes fluttered open for a second. They weren't human. Deep violet. Endless. Like looking into a starless sky. Please, she whispered. They're coming. Then she went completely still. Ethan laid her on his couch, his mind racing. He wasn't a stranger to weird. As a former systems engineer for the Interstellar Defense Grid, he'd seen things most civilians would never believe. But this was something else. She wasn't just injured. She was not from here. He grabbed a thermal blanket and wrapped it around her, noticing strange markings along her arms, thin, glowing lines that pulsed faintly like circuits. Technology? Biology? He couldn't tell. A soft beep echoed from the corner of the room. Ethan turned. His security console flickered to life. Unauthorized scan detected. His blood ran cold. They're already here, he muttered. Outside, something moved. Not footsteps. Not vehicles. Something quieter. Ethan rushed back to the couch. The girl was still unconscious, her breathing shallow. Whatever was chasing her, it wasn't far behind. He made a decision. All right, he said quietly. You came to the right door. Let's see if I can keep you alive. Minutes passed like hours. Ethan worked quickly, scanning her with his old diagnostic tools. The readings made no sense. Her internal structure didn't match any known human or alien species in the database. She was something new, something engineered. Suddenly, her body jerked. Her eyes snapped open, and she gasped. They found me, she said, sitting upright too fast. I can feel them. Hey. Ethan raised his hands. You're safe. For now. She stared at him, confused. Her gaze softened slightly, but fear still lingered. You shouldn't have opened the door, she whispered. Now they'll come for you too. Yeah, well. Ethan shrugged, forcing calm into his voice. Too late for that. A loud metallic thud echoed from outside. Both of them froze. They're here, she said. Ethan moved to the window and peeked through a narrow slit in the blinds. Nothing. But the street lights flickered, then went out, one by one, like something was swallowing the light. What exactly is chasing you? Ethan asked, turning back. She hesitated, then said, I don't have a name, not one you'd understand. But I was created to carry something. Carry what? She looked at him, and for a moment, the entire room seemed to dim. A key, she said softly, to something that should never be opened. The door exploded inward. Ethan barely had time to react as the force sent him crashing backward. Smoke and dust filled the air, and through it stepped 3 figures. Tall, armored, featureless helmets reflecting the dim light. They weren't human. Target located, one of them said in a cold, mechanical voice. The girl grabbed Ethan's arm. We have to go. Now. They ran. Through the back exit, down narrow stairwells, into the maze of alleys behind the apartment complex. Ethan's heart pounded as he tried to keep up. Where are we going? He shouted. Somewhere they can't track me. And where's that? She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed his hand, and everything changed. The world bent. Colors stretched and twisted as reality itself seemed to fold inward. Ethan felt weightless, like he was falling through space without moving. Then, silence. They stood in a completely different place. A vast, open landscape under a sky filled with swirling galaxies. Ethan staggered, trying to catch his breath. Where are we? She let go of his hand. A place between places, she said. They can't follow us here. Not easily. Ethan stared at the impossible sky. You're going to have to explain a lot of things, he said. She nodded slowly. And for the first time, she looked tired. Her story came in fragments. She had been created by an ancient civilization, one that had mastered time, space, and realities beyond comprehension. They had built her not as a weapon, but as a safeguard. Inside her was a key, a living key, to a gateway that could reshape entire universes. They feared what they had created, she said. So they hid it inside something that could think, feel, and choose. You, Ethan said. She nodded. But others found out, she continued. They want the key. They believe it can give them control over everything. And you ran. I chose to run, she corrected. That's something they didn't expect. Ethan exhaled slowly. So why me? Why come to my door? She looked at him. Because you're the only one who opened it. Time didn't exist in that place. Or maybe it did, just differently. Ethan lost track of how long they stayed there. Hours? Days? It felt like both and neither. He learned her name, or at least the one she chose. Lyra. And slowly, something changed between them. Trust. Understanding. Something deeper. But it couldn't last. They'll find a way, Lyra said one day, her voice quiet. They always do. Ethan nodded. Then we don't wait. They returned to the city. Prepared. Ethan had a plan. If they want the key, he said, we give them something else. Lyra tilted her head. A trap. The confrontation came at dawn. The same three figures appeared, stepping through reality itself, their presence distorting the air. End of the line, Ethan muttered. Lyra stepped forward. I won't let you take it, she said. You have no choice, one of them replied. Ethan smiled slightly. Actually, he said, she does. What happened next wasn't a fight. It was a choice. Lyra closed her eyes. And for a moment, everything went still. Then light erupted from her body. Blinding. Endless. Ethan shielded his eyes as reality itself seemed to tremble. The armored figures tried to move, but they couldn't. You were made to obey, one of them said, struggling. Lyra opened her eyes. I was made to choose. The key activated, but not in the way they expected. Instead of opening a gateway, it erased the connection. The hunters vanished. Not destroyed. Not killed. Just removed. From this reality. From all realities. Gone. Silence returned. The city stood still. Ethan lowered his hand slowly. Is it over? He asked. Lyra stood there, the light fading from her body. Yes, she said softly. But she hesitated. The key is gone now. I used it. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? She looked at him, and for the first time, there were tears in her eyes. It means I won't last much longer. Ethan's chest tightened. No, he said. We'll figure something out. There's always a way. She shook her head gently. This was always the end. He stepped closer. You came to me, he said. There has to be a reason beyond just survival. She smiled faintly. There is. The sun began to rise, golden light spilling over the horizon. Lyra reached out, placing her hand against Ethan's chest. You reminded me what it means to be alive, she said. Her form flickered, fading. No, Ethan whispered. You gave me something they never could, she continued. A choice and a reason to make it. Her hand grew lighter, like air. Thank you for opening the door. And then, she was gone. Days passed. Then weeks. Life returned to normal. Or, at least, something close to it. Ethan fixed his door, repaired his apartment, went back to work, but nothing felt the same. Every night, at exactly midnight, he would pause, listening, waiting. One night, there was a knock. 3 soft taps. Careful, familiar. Ethan's heart stopped. Slowly, he walked to the door. His hand trembled as he reached for the lock and opened it. She stood there, not glowing, not fading, just there, alive. Ethan stared at her, speechless. How? Lyra smiled. I told you, she said softly. I was made to choose. He shook his head, still trying to process it. But the key, you used it. I did, she said. But I didn't just destroy it. She stepped closer. I changed what it meant. Ethan frowned. I don't understand. Lyra reached for his hand. And this time, nothing warped. Nothing broke. Everything stayed exactly as it was. That power, she said, was never meant to control reality. She squeezed his hand gently. It was meant to connect it. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. So, what now? Lyra smiled. Now, she said, we live. And this time, when she stepped inside, the door stayed open.